We are glad to see you again on our channel. And today, we have a review of a movie in which Brian Harper, an astronaut, witnesses a strange swarm of particles in space, but no one believes him. 10 years later, the moon is moved out of orbit, and NASA is trying to figure it out. Employing Brian, they return to the moon in search of answers. 12. January 2011, satellite repair mission. In Earth orbit, astronauts Brian Harper, Alan Marcus, and Jocinda Fowler repair the satellite. Suddenly, they're knocked down by something that looks like a swarm of particles in space. Brian sees Alan drifting a distance and tries to grab his hand, but the man twists around the shuttle and he can do nothing. Brian gets inside. He sees Jocinda unconscious and realizes he has to return to Earth. Brian Harper. At a meeting at NASA, Brian talks about a swarm of particles, but is not believed. Jocinda cannot confirm anything because she was unconscious. Brian is fired due to negligence and the death of his partner, even though the man landed the shuttle manually in case of electronics failure. Sonny Harper, Brian's son, once again reviewed the recording of the meeting. He and Brenda Lopez lost the house because of his father's problems. Jocinda. 10 years later, University of California, Irvine. Dr. Eugene Arrowwood exits his office, and K.C. Houseman, disguised as a janitor, enters his computer. The man is making a request for data from the moon's orbit. K.C. comes to work in a fast food cafe and, not having time to serve the buyer, sees the data in the mail. The man tries to call NASA, but nothing comes of it. K.C. Houseman is a supporter of the marginal theory of the possibility of the artificial origin of the moon. K.C. Houseman. Meanwhile, Jocinda became the deputy head of NASA. She wakes up early in the morning from a call and immediately leaves for work at the Space Center of Lyndon Johnson in Houston, Texas, leaving her son with a young nanny. The staff tell Jocinda that the moon's orbit is shrinking and the moon has shifted. Jocinda says it is impossible. She is shown something strange on the monitor. In the Sea of Crises, on the surface of the moon, there is a hole. Jocinda doesn't believe what she sees when she's surprised. K.C. Houseman sees a newspaper article about Brian Harper's upcoming meeting where he will be telling children about space. The man arrives at the scene, but Brian is not there, so K.C. tells the children what he knows. Brian Harper arrives later, and K.C. asks to be connected with NASA, saying he made a discovery. Brian asks the guards to take the K.C. out of the building, saying that he has enough stories about the moon and so on. K.C. leaves his printouts. Brian comes home. His ex-wife calls him and tells him to turn on the TV. They show the police catching some intruder in the car. The driver of the car turns out to be Brian's son, Sonny. The car was given to him by Tom, Brenda's boyfriend. Brian comes to court. It says that the hearing is postponed for a week while the guy's in jail. K.C. comes to his mother, who suffers from dementia. He gives her a flower that helps her memory and tells her that he made the discovery, but no one listens to him. His mother advises to make him heard. NASA says the moon is declining in an elliptical orbit. It will fly around the Earth 3 times, and then it will reach the limits of Roche, about 17,000 kilometers, and begin to fall to Earth with city-sized debris. It is estimated that all this will happen in less than 3 weeks. Jocinda says that they need to fly to the moon. Everyone is getting a Twitter news on their phones that the moon has gone out of orbit. Brian meets the judge after the hearing and offers him a bribe, his car and money, to let his son out. But the man says that they need to leave quickly. Brian sees on the news what is happening. On the Earth, panic begins. People leave the cities. The head of NASA makes an announcement, comforting people by saying that everything is under control, but Jocinda tells him that he keeps people in the dark and that he is a liar. Tom tells Brenda that they should leave with their daughters, but Brenda does not agree to leave Sonny in prison. The NASA mission, together with the European Space Agency, is launched into space by a launch vehicle. The team approaches lunar orbit and launches a probe into the hole. Brian arrives to K.C. and wants to know how the man was the first to know what was happening. K.C. says that for many years he has been searching for a planet or satellite that is artificially created, a megastructure. K.C. says that all megastructures have energy in the center, like the moon does now. Brian says he once tried to convey something similar, but no one believed him. A team in orbit watches their ejected probe return with the particle flow. There is a hardware failure. The orbit shifts again. The swarm of particles attacks the crew, depriving all life. The mission is in a disaster. Meanwhile, the city is flooded by the tsunami, and Brian and Casey are also in the water. Albert Hutchings calls his wife and tells her to get ready with the children. They leave. Jocinda hears everything and asks if he will surrender. Albert says they are powerless and quits his post, telling Jocinda that she is now the head of NASA. He gives the girl access and tells her to visit Holdenfield. Jocinda reviews videos of missions to the moon and realizes that NASA has long lied about everything. She meets with Holdenfield. The man says that on July 20th, 1969, Apollon 11 lost contact with the world for 2 minutes. But that's not true, because the control center hid from the world that they found a strange pulse of light from under the lunar surface. Holdenfield was instructed to cover it up, which he did. The man says he was just following orders, and this technology has beaten people to many light years. Holdenfield said that the chance was the ZX7 project based on the EMI, but it was shut down because of financial reasons. Jocinda contacts the military and tells her ex-husband that he cannot use nuclear weapons. He invites Jocinda to leave with his son, but the girl is not ready to give up. In conversation with his son, Jocinda realizes that the museum in California has a shuttle rocket, Endeavour. Jocinda learns from her ex-husband that ZX7 is an electromagnetic device, but is no longer in use. The man is concerned about what Jocinda is going to do. The military come to pick up Brian and say he should fly with them. It's a matter of national security. A man takes Casey with him. On the spot, they meet Jocinda, which shows men a hole on the moon, the depth of which is more than 25 kilometers. It is the Sea of Crisis. Jocinda says that she watched the video from the cameras and realizes that Brian was telling the truth and they were both lied to. She shows a video of a failed recent mission during which the crew was attacked by a high-tech life form. Jocinda says the plan is to attack the swarm, but it knows the technology, so they need a manual mode that only Brian worked with. Brian agrees, but on the condition that his son is released from prison. At Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, Jocinda and Brian prepare the shuttle for the mission. The military tell Brian that they will fly with him with the ZX7 device to activate it. The military show how it works. You have to press the top button twice, then the bottom button and hold it. There will be an explosion. Now the security and clearance systems are off. The device can be used from the control panel. Brian says that it is necessary to fly to the moon when it is as close as possible, because the target is unpredictable. The navigator will make sure the team gets to the moon and the flight engineer will make the calculation. After leaving the station, the team will take position over the Sea of Crisis. The team will direct the rover into the water with a bomb in the mine. Electronics will be the bait for the monster to destroy. Meanwhile, things are getting worse on Earth. Something in the shuttle is breaking down because of the earthquake, and Jocinda announces the evacuation of all personnel in Colorado. The girl tells Brian that he cannot take off on 2 engines. She is about to fly off herself, but Casey shows her that the moon will have a strong gravity. The girl offers Brian to fly with him and Casey. She says that 2 engines are enough to launch because there will be gravity. Casey says how to launch the bomb. Jocinda and Brian evacuate the children while preparing for the mission. They barely have time to take off and avoid a collision with a large gravitational wave tsunami that covered the coast. The team enters orbit. The shuttle approaches the moon and switches off all electronics. Calculations are conducted by Casey using a ruler and astrolabe. Sonny Harper takes Jocinda's son to Colorado to his father, along with his nanny. They are attacked on the way by the company and takes the car at gunpoint. The children have to walk. The shuttle team sees the moon's debris everywhere. The people on Earth are blown away by the moon gravity. Jocinda says that the military are ready to deliver a nuclear strike on the moon and they don't think about the fallout, which will destroy everything on the Earth. The company with Sonny Harper is met by Tom and brought to the house where Sonny is waited by his mother. Meanwhile, the team remotely detonates the ZX7 prototype. but realizes that an empty shuttle, even with electronics turned on, does not lure a swarm, as the particles seek organic life in an electronics environment. The team comes to the conclusion that they need manual mode and penetrates the swarm inside the moon. Inside, they discover the rings and the very megastructure that the KC was talking about. The KC says there's energy of the universe, a white dwarf. Brian is about to launch the rover. An overdue swarm attack causes damage to the module. Astronauts enter a protected area inside the moon that the swarm does not penetrate. Brian contacts the moon's operating system and learns that the Black Swarm is an artificial intelligence that has long been disabled and has become hostile. Previously, there was a civilization of the ancestors of the Earthlings. The moon was built as the last hope of the destruction of civilization. The moon was an ark ship and traveled through the universe, searching for a planet to spread new life and revive a civilization. There were many such arks, but over the past millions of years, they were all destroyed by a swarm. 12 years ago, this swarm found the moon. By taking control of it, the swarm decided to destroy immediately both the moon and the Earth. Jocinda and KC find Brian, who says that life on Earth depends on the moon, and therefore the moon must survive. The galactic war has been going on for thousands of years, and all the swarms are looking for the moon. Brian says that they will lure out the swarm and destroy it. The team lands on the lunar module and flies outside the swarm. The military is about to launch a nuclear strike, but Jocinda's ex-husband takes the activation key, restraining the military. Sunny with mother, girls, and Tom sneak through the snow, but Tom dies. It is getting worse on the Earth. Natural disasters destroy everything around. Brian says he'll go with the bomb to the rover, and the guys can go with the module. He wants to be the bait, to lock himself in the rover so the swarm will attack him. While Brian and Jocinda argue, the KC is carrying out the plan. He says that his mother taught him to ask for forgiveness, not permission. He also thanks Brian for listening to him, while nobody believed in him. KC sacrifices himself, but manages to release the bomb. The swarm is destroyed. The moon begins to move away from Earth, gradually reaching a normal orbit. Brian and Jocinda return to their families. KC recovers and learns that his body has died, but his consciousness has now become part of the moon's operating system. He sees his mother as a hologram, telling a man that the swarm that has been destroyed is not the only one in the universe. And this victory is really just the beginning of a fight between the swarm and organic life. This is the film of the USA, China, and Canada Moonfall, in the genres of fiction, action film, directed by Roland Emmerich.